All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking at a piece of AI technology that's doing something, well, something pretty different. It doesn't just create an image from text, it creates entire complex compositions. It's called Qwen Image 2.0. And you know what? It's really challenging the very line between a detailed description and a finished piece of art.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of it all, I've got a question for you. Just take a look at the slides you're seeing right now. The title card, this very question, do you think an AI could actually generate these? And I don't just mean the background image. I mean the text, the layout, the whole shebang. What do you think?
Well, the answer is a resounding yes. In fact, this timeline you're looking at right now, this was generated by Qwen Image 2.0 from one single complex text prompt. It's not just a graphic, it's charting the model's own history, showing how what started as two separate paths, generation and editing, have now merged into one unified, incredibly powerful tool. It's a perfect way to kick things off, right?
So how on earth does it do it? Well, the magic behind Qwen Image 2.0 can really be broken down into 5 fundamental pillars. Think of them as 5 core capabilities that all work together to create these just incredible results. So let's unpack them one by one.
The very first pillar is precision, or Qwen. This is the model's core superpower, its ability to follow instructions right to the letter. Remember that timeline we just saw? That wasn't a lucky accident. The AI was given this complex set of instructions with specific dates, text, layouts, and it rendered every single piece of it exactly as it was told. That is precision in action.
Now, building on top of that precision is the second pillar, complexity, or duo. And this is where things start to get truly mind-bending. The model can understand and execute a prompt that is up to 1,000 tokens long. To put that into perspective for you, that's not just a sentence. It's a detailed, multi-paragraph creative brief.
So what does 1,000 tokens of complexity actually look like? Well, here's just a little snippet of a prompt that was used to generate a full-on business infographic. I mean, look at the detail here. The instructions get as specific as column titles and the exact data points to use.
And here's what it made. From that one incredibly detailed prompt, the AI generated this entire data-rich report. The layout, the charts, the key metrics, it just got it. It understood the whole structure and spit out a professional-grade infographic in one shot. Honestly, this level of automated complexity just wasn't possible before.
But it's not all just about functional, data-driven stuff. Pillar number 3 is aesthetics, or May. This is the model's inner artist, its innate sense of design. It doesn't just slap text on a page, it composes it beautifully. It understands layout, balance. It can even create absolutely stunning calligraphy.
For example, check this out. This prompt asks the AI to basically become a master calligrapher. It's asking for a famous poem in a classical ink wash style, and it's even specifying details down to the flying white effect you get from a drying brush. This isn't just a request for information. This is a request for art.
Okay, our fourth pillar takes us straight into the physical world. Realism, or Gen. This is all about the model's ability to make text look like it truly belongs in a scene. It understands materials, lighting, and perspective, so it renders text not just on an image, but in it. And this is a fantastic example of that. In just one single image that the model generated, it rendered text in all these different ways. You've got handwritten notes on a reflective glass whiteboard, a logo on the fabric of a t-shirt, text on a magazine cover with perfect perspective, and even a hand-drawn schematic. It calculates how light and texture should affect every single one, making the final image just incredibly believable. And that brings us to our final pillar, alignment, or Qi. You can think of this as the organizational brain of the model. It's the power to arrange information into perfectly structured professional formats, turning what could be chaotic instructions into clean, organized output. And what better way to show off alignment than a calendar, right? The model was asked to create this for February 2026 and to include all the correct dates, lunar notations, and holidays. It didn't just generate the text, it understood the entire grid structure and placed every single element perfectly. This is high-level automated design, plain and simple.
It can even create a multi-panel comic strip. From just one prompt describing the whole story, Qwen Image 2.0 generated this entire sequence. It correctly placed the characters, the action, and the dialogue in each panel, showing that it actually understands sequential storytelling and visual layout. It's amazing.
So, okay, the model is clearly a master of text.
But its power goes way, way beyond that. It's also capable of generating photorealistic images with a level of detail that is just staggering.
A huge reason for this is its native 2K resolution. We're talking 2048 by 2048 pixels. That's a much larger canvas than a lot of previous models, and it's what allows it to render details so fine they feel almost microscopic.
And this is how that high resolution translates into realism. In one example, the model created a forest scene using over 23 distinct shades of green. It was capturing the unique texture and the way light hits every single plant. The result isn't just a picture of a forest, it's an image that really feels alive.
Now this brings us full circle back to that timeline we saw at the beginning, where generation and editing merged. Because this is a unified omni-model, it means that all those powerful capabilities we just talked about, the precision, the realism, the aesthetics, they can also be used to edit existing images.
So what does that mean for you? It means you can now perform edits that used to be only for skilled artists. You could, say, upload a photo and just ask the model to inscribe a poem onto it in a very specific calligraphic style. It'll analyze the image and add the text as if it were always a part of the original shot. It's seamless. It could even combine subjects from multiple photos into one totally coherent scene. Like in this example, it took two separate images of the same character and just merged them. And notice, it didn't just copy and paste. No way. It created a unified background and it adjusted the lighting and perspective to make the new composition feel completely natural.
So, when you add all of this up, what you get is a fundamental shift in how we even think about creation. The line between a detailed description and the final product is becoming vanishingly thin. This really is the creator's new canvas.
To really show you what I mean, let's look at one last, incredibly detailed prompt. It's describing a winter street scene in Beijing, and it's specifying everything: a calligraphy shop, a flower shop with a sign made out of flowers, and a snowman in the middle holding a sign to announce the model's release.
And here it is, the result. The AI took every single one of those creative, complex, and distinct instructions and wove them all into this single beautiful image. The calligraphy, the text made of flowers, the chalk on the snowman sign. It's all there, and it's all rendered perfectly.
We are entering an era where the act of describing something with precision and creativity is the act of creating it. So the final question really isn't about what the AI can do anymore. It's about what we will ask it to do. When your description becomes the art, what will you describe?
So, today we're talking about something pretty cool in the AI coding world, a new model called Qwen3 Coder Next. And what's really interesting here isn't just another new model, but how this thing learned to code. It's a whole different approach, so let's jump right in.
This really gets to the heart of the matter, right? For what feels like forever, the big idea in AI has been go big or go home. But when you think about it, to be a really, really good coder, does an AI actually need to be gigantic? Is that the only path forward?
Yeah, the trend has been super clear for a while now. Bigger is always better. The playbook is just add more parameters, billions of them, heck, trillions. The assumption is that if you just keep making the model bigger, it'll just get smarter. It's kind of the brute force approach, and honestly, for the longest time, it felt like the only way to do things.
But what if there's a different way? A smarter, more efficient way? That's exactly the question this Qwen3 Coder Next model is posing. What if you didn't need to build a bigger brain, but you could train a smarter one? What if the secret sauce isn't size, but efficiency? This thing is basically designed to take that whole bigger is better idea and flip it on its head.
All right, so let's talk about a smarter way to train this thing. This is about going beyond just brute force and getting into what they call the agentic approach.
So, what is agentic training? Well, the really cool part is that it's all about learning by doing. Think about it. Instead of just having the AI read a million textbooks on coding, you give it actual coding problems to solve in a real environment. It tries something, it sees if it works, and it gets instant feedback. It's exactly like the difference between reading a book about how to swim versus, actually jumping in the water and figuring it out.
And they have this whole recipe for it, broken down into 4 main steps. First, you start with the basics, pre-training it on tons of code and agent data. Then, for step 2, you do some supervised fine-tuning, basically showing it high-quality examples of how to get things done. Step 3 is about specialization, diving deep into specific areas like software engineering or web development. And the final step, you take all those specialized skills and distill them down into one powerful, ready-to-go model.
And this is the really important part. Look at what this training focuses on. We're not just talking about spitting out a line of code. It's about teaching it to think like an actual developer. Things like long horizon reasoning, handling those big, messy, multi-step projects, or effective tool usage, actually knowing how to use the tools in its environment. And maybe the most important one, recovering from failures. Because let's be real, how much of programming is just figuring out why something broke?
Okay, so this model is definitely punching above its weight. The performance really does defy its size. But how good is it really? Let's see if the numbers back it up.
All right, check this out. On this Qwen benchmark, which is a pretty big deal, it's a tough test for coding agents, this model hits a 70% score. Now, that's not just good, that's fantastic. That score puts it right up there with some of the heavyweights in the field. It's basically proof that this whole agentic training idea isn't just theory, it really works. Okay, impressive performance. But at what cost? That brings us right back to where we started. If it's performing like the giants, does it come with a giant-sized cost and parameter count? And this right here is where things get wild. See, for other larger models to get similar results, they need way more firepower. We're talking 10 to 20 times more active parameters. But Qwen3 Coder Next, it pulls this off with only 3 billion active parameters. It's like a bantamweight boxer stepping into the ring and knocking out a heavyweight. It's just insanely efficient.
Yeah, just look at that number, 10 to 20 times more efficient. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't some small incremental improvement. This is a massive leap. And what that really means is that it's way more practical and cost-effective to actually use this thing in the real world. That's a huge deal.
All right, so we've seen the benchmarks. Now let's see these coding agents in action. We're moving from theory to some real-world tasks.
And when you see what it can do, the list is pretty wild. We're talking about building a fully working chat interface, completely on its own. It can automate desktop cleanup, which is pretty handy. It can even browse the web, like searching for something on Amazon. It's generated animations, built a web page about itself, and even coded a playable game of Gamoku. This is so much more than just an autocomplete. It's a full-on digital partner.
So clearly, the future looks efficient. Let's talk about what's next for this kind of smart, agile AI. The folks behind this project really put it best. They're saying that strong agent skills are key for better coding agents. And what they mean by that is the ability to actually use tools, to tackle messy, complex problems, and just manage a whole workflow. That's the secret to making these things truly useful.
So their path forward is all about doubling down on that idea. They want to make its reasoning and decision-making even better, getting to handle an even wider range of tasks, and, this is super important, they're going to be iterating really fast based on what users like you and me actually say about it.
And that really brings us full circle back to that first big question. What Qwen3 Coder Next is showing us is a potentially huge shift in how we think about AI. So I'll leave you with this. Is the future of AI really about who can build the biggest brain? Or is it about who can teach it the best, most useful skills? It definitely feels like the rules of the game are changing.
All right, today we're diving into a fascinating new AI from Google and Peking University. It's called Paper Banana, and honestly, it's designed to tackle this hidden challenge that pretty much every scientist on the planet faces. It's a problem that can grind the whole process of discovery to a halt.
So what is this big hurdle? You might think it's, funding or maybe competition for grants, but nope, the answer is actually visual. It's a problem you can see, and it slows down almost every single major discovery out there.
See, the real problem isn't just having the brilliant, groundbreaking idea. It's all about communicating it. Just take a look at this diagram. This is from a real AI paper, by the way. The idea behind it is genius, but wow. Trying to figure out what's going on here to untangle the flow of information, it's a huge challenge. And for the poor researcher who had to make this, it's a total bottleneck.
Okay, so let's really get into what we can call science's illustration problem. And look, this isn't just about making things look pretty for a presentation. This is a real, super frustrating part of the whole research process, and it has some pretty big consequences.
Just think about it. To create one of these diagrams ready for a top-tier journal, it's so time-consuming. It takes a ton of specialized design skills that, let's be honest, most scientists just don't have. They're brilliant researchers, not professional artists.
And what ends up happening is that it can actually limit how well they can explain their most complex ideas. It literally creates a huge delay in getting important research out into the world. But what if scientists didn't have to be graphic designers, right? What if an AI could just step in and take on that role of a professional illustrator, translating all those complex ideas into super clear visuals? Well, that's the whole idea behind Paper Banana. And here it is. Meet the solution. This is an AI that's been specifically designed to be a scientist's own personal artist. It's ready to take all that complex stuff, methods, data, you name it, and just turn it into these clean, professional diagrams.
Now, the tech behind Paper Banana is really what makes it so cool. This isn't just one single giant AI doing everything. Nope, it's what's called an agentic framework. The easiest way to think about it is like a whole team of specialized AIs, all collaborating. Each one has a very specific job, and they all work together to make the final illustration.
So, how does this AI team actually get the job done? Let's pull back the curtain and meet the members of what is basically Paper Banana's AI art department.
You know, the original research paper puts it perfectly. It says Paper Banana orchestrates a collaborative team of 5 specialized agents. So it's not just one agent, it's a whole crew of 5 specialists, all working together.
And this diagram right here, it shows the entire workflow. You can see how the stuff on the left, the inputs, kind of moves through this planning stage and then into this loop where it gets refined over and over again before you get the final picture. Pretty neat, right? Okay, so now let's break down who does what. All right, the best way to think about it is like a little production line. First up, you've got the retriever. This agent is like a researcher, and its job is to go find inspiring examples from a huge database. Then the planner steps in. This is your architect. It takes the main idea and sketches out a super detailed blueprint. After that, the stylist comes in. Think of it as the design consultant. It picks the colors, makes sure the layout is professional, all that good stuff. Then the visualizer. That's the artist who actually draws the thing. And finally, you have the critic. The critic is the editor, the quality control. It gives feedback, and they just keep looping and refining until the image is perfect.
Okay, so remember that really detailed diagram we were just looking at? The one that explained this whole system? Well, get this. Paper Banana made it. Yeah, it generated its own explanation diagram. The tool used to explain this system was literally built by the system. That's pretty wild. It just shows you how powerful this thing is. Okay, but is it actually any good? I mean, making a cool demo is one thing, but in science, you need proof. You need rigorous testing. So let's see how they actually put this AI through its paces. So to do this right, the team couldn't just use an off-the-shelf test. They had to create a whole new benchmark, and they called it Paper Banana Bench. What they did was they took 292 really complex diagrams from the best of the best AI conference papers to create a seriously tough, really relevant test.
And here you go, a direct side-by-side comparison. On the left, that's a diagram from an actual published paper. On the right, that's Paper Banana's take on it. I mean, just look at the difference. The layout is so much cleaner, the icons are consistent, and the whole flow of logic from left to right is just clearer. It's not just that it looks better, it's genuinely easier to understand what's going on.
And the numbers really don't lie. They actually had another AI judge the outputs, and Paper Banana's creations were rated as way more concise. We're talking over 37% more concise. On top of that, they were more readable and just looked better than diagrams made with other methods.
And the final score. The overall improvement was 17%. Now that might not sound like a huge number, but in the world of AI benchmarks, a 17% jump is a massive leap forward. It really proves that this whole multi-agent team approach works.
So, what does this all mean for the future of science? Let's kind of zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here.
And you know, this isn't just about those super complex methodology diagrams. It's not a one-trick pony. The framework is flexible enough to create all sorts of high-quality statistical plots, which, you guessed it, is another huge headache for researchers. So when you boil it all down, the impact is huge. Tools like Paper Banana are going to dramatically speed up how research gets done. They make science more accessible to everyone. And maybe most importantly, they let researchers get back to focusing on what they do best, discovery, not graphic design. This is a really key step toward building AI assistants that can truly collaborate with scientists. And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. You know, for a while now, we've seen AI master the logic of science with things like large language models. But now, we're seeing it start to master the art of communicating science. And if AI can do that,
What complex, creative, supposedly human task is really off the table?
All right, so you know how it is, right? We've all gotten pretty used to chatting with AI one-on-one. It's awesome for asking a quick question or, getting a summary of a long article. But what happens when you try to drop that same AI into, say, a group chat or a team meeting or even a family dinner? Yeah, it kind of falls apart, doesn't it? Well, today we're going to dig into why that is and look at a brand new framework that's trying to teach AI how to actually be a good team player. So what's the big deal, really? Well, think about any real-world group conversation you've been in. It's not just a neat, orderly series of one-on-one turns. It's messy. People are interrupting each other, the topic shifts on a dime, there are inside jokes. Current AI just isn't built to handle that kind of chaos, that multi-party complexity. I love this analogy. It's like bringing a chess grandmaster to a poker game. They might be brilliant, but they're playing a completely different game with totally different rules. And for years, the folks who actually create these experiences, designers, developers, they've been stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, you've got rigid scripts. Yeah, they're controllable, but they feel so robotic, so unnatural. Then on the other hand, you have pure generative AI, the kind that just makes stuff up on the fly. It's spontaneous, for sure, but it can also be totally chaotic and unpredictable. So you're left with this choice, either a super boring, predictable play or a wild improv show that goes completely off the rails. But what if you didn't have to choose? What if you could get the best of both worlds? Well, that's exactly the goal of this new research prototype called Dialogue Lab. It's an open source framework designed to bridge that exact gap, to blend the reliable structure of a script with the genuine spontaneity of a real conversation. So at its core, Dialogue Lab is a tool built for creators. You can think of it like a unified workbench, a single place where a designer or a researcher can author, simulate, and then test these really complex group conversations with both humans and AI. It's basically a simulator for social dynamics. Okay, so how does this thing actually work? The best way to wrap your head around it is to imagine you're a director staging a scene. This framework literally gives you, the creator, director-level control over every single element of the conversation, from who's in the scene to how the dialogue actually flows. First up, you gotta set the stage. Dialab calls this group dynamics, and it's all about the who. You decide who the participants are. Are they human? Are they AI? What roles do they have? Maybe some are presenters and others are the audience. You can even create subgroups, little cliques within the larger conversation. You're essentially drawing out the social map of the entire interaction before anyone even says a word. All right, once you've set your cast, you define the what, the conversation flow. The whole dialogue gets broken down into these little chunks called snippets. Just think of them as different phases of the conversation, right? You might have an opening snippet, then a debate snippet, and finally a consensus snippet. And for each one, you, the director, get to set the rules. You can define how turn-taking works and even set the overall vibe, like, is this a collaborative chat or a heated argument? And the actual process of creating is this really neat three-step loop: author, test, and verify. It's super intuitive. First, you author your scene with a simple drag-and-drop canvas. Then, you test it out in a live preview. Now, this is where it gets really cool. There's a human control mode that lets you guide the AI in real time. You can approve or even edit its responses on the fly. And finally, you verify everything with a visual dashboard that shows you how the conversation played out. No more digging through endless text logs. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But a tool is only as good as the people who use it find it to be. So of course, the researchers had to put it to the test. They ran a user study to see if Dialogue Lab actually helps creators do what it promises: design better, more realistic group conversations. And they didn't just grab anyone off the street. They brought in 14 people who are the exact target audience for a tool like this. We're talking experts from game design, education, and social science research. You know, people whose jobs literally depend on creating believable dialogues, whether it's for NPCs in a game, a training simulation, or a research study. And the results? Wow, they were crystal clear. The participants tried out 3 different modes. In reactive mode, the AI only spoke when spoken to. In autonomous mode, it just chimed in whenever it wanted. But look at this. The overwhelming favorite was human control mode, the one where the user could guide the AI's responses. It wasn't even close. It was rated way, way higher across the board on everything that matters: engagement, effectiveness, and realism. And this quote from a participant really gets to the why behind those numbers. They said that this human control mode gave them a greater sense of agency and immersion. See, it changed the whole experience. They weren't just passively watching an AI perform anymore. They were actively co-creating the conversation with the AI. And that right there is the magic, that perfect balance between powerful automation and human creative control. And the rest of the feedback pretty much echoed that same sentiment. People loved it. They said the drag-and-drop interface was fun and efficient. They kept coming back to that perfect balance of automation and control. And they found the verification tools to be super powerful for figuring out, at a glance, what was working and what wasn't. So when you step back and look at all this, it's clear this is way more than just a cool prototype. It's really a glimpse into the future, a future where our collaboration with AI could be so much richer, so much more nuanced. Let's talk about what that might actually look like.
I mean, the potential applications here are huge. Think about education. Imagine a student practicing public speaking in front of a whole simulated audience of AIs that can react, ask tough questions, and give feedback. Or what about game design? Creating non-player characters, NPCs that actually have believable dynamic conversations with each other, not just waiting for the player to show up. And for social scientists, this is like a dream come true. A controlled laboratory for studying group dynamics without the absolute nightmare of organizing huge groups of real people.
Ultimately, that's what this is all about. This isn't just about making a chatbot that doesn't get confused in a group chat. No, the real goal here is to build tools that open up a whole new way for humans and AI to partner up, moving way beyond just simple commands and answers, and into the world of truly complex, dynamic teamwork. Which leaves us with one last, pretty big question to chew on. This technology is moving so fast. It's really not a matter of if AI will join our team meetings, our classrooms, or our creative projects anymore. It's a matter of how. Tools like Dialogue Lab are the very first steps in designing what that future looks like. So the real question is, what are we going to build with them?